Shabbat Shalom. This week's Parsha, Beshalach, as we have learned today, is of course most famous for being the moment when the Israelite people finally cross the Red Sea, walking through on dry land and then rejoicing in song when they reach the opposite shore. A Shabbat of celebration. It's called Shabbat Shirah, after all, Shabbat of song. That is the preeminent story we tell every time we reach this Parsha, a story of freedom, a story of redemption. And yet, this week, it is something else in the Parsha that has been screaming out to me, something else I couldn't ignore. And that is the introduction of Amalek. That also happens in this week's Parsha. Amalek, the perennial enemy of the Israelites, an ancestor of Haman. Amalek, the group that has now become synonymous with every group that has ever been an existential threat to the Jewish people. The first battle with Amalek happens in this week's Parsha just after the people have made it out of Egypt and across the sea, just when they think they have made it to freedom. There is one defining feature of Amalek that shows up again and again and again. Amalek preys on the vulnerable. That is their calling card. We know from later on in the book of Deuteronomy that Amalek surprised the Israelites by coming up behind them and attacking the people at the back of the group. The most vulnerable, the elderly, the people with disabilities, the children. That is the cruelty of Amalek, targeting and attacking the people who need the most protection. This week, of all weeks, it is not hard to see Amalek everywhere we look. But alongside our introduction to Amalek in the Parsha, we are simultaneously given the tools to fight Amalek. When the battle begins, Moshe tells Joshua to take some troops to begin to fight, and Moshe, Aaron, and Hur ascend the hill. Hur is the son of Miriam and someone we're less familiar with, but who plays a critical role here. The text tells us, "V'haya ka'asher yarim Moshe yado v'gavar Yisrael, v'cha'asher yaniach yado v'gavar Amalek." Whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed, but whenever he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. So he continued to try to hold up his hands, but videi Moshe kevedim, his hands got heavy. And so, vayichu even vayasimu tachtav vayeshev aleha. They took a stone and put it under him. He sat on it, and then Aaron and Hur, one on each side, tamchu b'yadav mizeh echad u'mizeh echad, videi yadav emunah adbo hashemesh. One on each side, they supported his hands, and his hands remained steady until the sun set. What an incredible moment. Moshe perched on top of a hill, two people by his side holding his arms for him all day long as was needed for the battle to be won. Watching the sun set, Joshua and the troops on the battlefield, frozen in time, waiting, hoping for an end to the battle. This powerful image comes to us at exactly the right time. This is one of those weeks where what we read in the Torah feels completely aligned with the need of this moment. We find ourselves deep in a battle, in a fight for justice, for ourselves, for our neighbors, for our country. And we must figure out how to sustain ourselves for that fight. So much is being threatened in this moment, including our resilience and our resistance. Our ability to stay strong and energized, our ability to sustain the commitment to the work. And that is what we see in Moses here. Moshe is tired, exhausted from the protracted confrontation with Pharaoh, from the drama at the sea, and now a new battle to fight. Like at the sea, he is asked again to lift up his arms, this time to save the Israelites in the battle with Amalek, and he realizes he just can't do it anymore. The consequences are life and death, and he is faltering. But that is exactly the moment that something shifts, that two people step in to help him, seeing so clearly that this is not a job for one person, and it's not even a job for three people. There's also Joshua and everyone else who is on the battlefield. But in the image of Moshe we have captured here, we need at least three people. Who are you in this image? Right now, today. What role are you playing? Sometimes we will be able to hold our hands high on our own, and sometimes we will need someone to help. Sometimes we will be that help for someone else. This exhaustion is real. We know it in our bodies, in our bones. The result of witnessing horror after horror after horror with little to no respite. The result of news alerts and warnings and our neighbors being ripped from their homes and cars and schools and families. State-sanctioned violence by paramilitary forces roaming our streets, and then lies from the highest offices about things we have just seen with our own eyes. We are exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. It's hard to carry this burden, and it's not getting lighter. We need more and more people to help hold our arms up. We need breaks. We need help. All of us. We cannot do it alone, but no powers that be are coming to save us either. We have to help each other and ourselves. We have to save us. We keep us safe. And that will look like different things for different people on different days. Sometimes it may be physical presence, and sometimes emotional presence, and sometimes both. What does it look like to lift each other up right now? To support each other's arms, to return strength to the weary, to maintain our fortitude for as long as we can? Well, this is what it looked like this week. It looked like a huge general strike in Minnesota, the largest in many decades, and then a national strike just yesterday. It looked like watching Minnesotans flock to the streets day after day after day in below freezing temperatures to protect their city and neighbors. It looked like many, many groceries being delivered to families afraid to leave their homes. It looked like neighbors holding vigils on their corners. It looked like people around the country stepping in to help. It looked like GoFundMes and local fundraisers and organizations being flooded with donations. It looked like calls from regular people like you and me that got all of the Senate Democrats and a handful of Republicans to refuse to vote for more DHS funding this week without concessions to rein in ICE and hold them accountable. It looked like the whole Minnesota business community putting out a letter expressing their growing discomfort about what is happening in their state. It looked like the head of Customs and Border Patrol operations in Minnesota being removed. That is what it looked like this week. That is what it was for us to hold each other up, to stick together and to put one foot in front of the other, to fight this battle from every direction we can. And what we saw this week is that it works. That it's working. At least a little bit, something is working. But it requires persistence. It requires a sustained effort over the course of a lot of time, as long as it takes until the sun sets. I saw an incredible interview this week with one of the Minneapolis protesters named Harris, who spoke to the sustainability of the work in this moment. Harris talked about not staying out more than 6 hours in the below zero temperatures because of its impact on the body, and that you can't burn out if you're going to do it day after day. Harris was stationed with many others outside the federal building, watching ICE vehicles come in and out. When they were asked why they're still going when they're mostly being ignored by ICE, they said, "I guess it's so that there's not a single moment that goes by that they don't know that we know that what they're doing is wrong." I know the hecklers aren't going to make everybody quit all at once, but if they can distract one person from doing their job the way they're supposed to, and that can save one person from being hurt today, then that's worth 6 hours in the cold. That is the ethos of this moment. Every single action counts, every single moment counts, every single one matters, and everyone can do their part. Harris also shared a bit about why they chose this role. They said they can't march because they use a cane for walking, but they said, I can bring hot water and I can bring hand warmers and I can check in on people and make sure they're not getting too cold. In other words, they can be a good neighbor and they can show up and take care of people and be a presence that reminds people that a different world is possible. They can hold up the arms of someone else and then have someone hold up theirs. The final thing Harris shared is from the late Minnesota Senator Paul Wellstone. He said, "We all do better when we all do better." And that's it. That's all there is. We all do better when we all do better. When I checked in with a friend in Minneapolis early in the week, he said, "We are doing our best, and our best is very, very good." He is exactly right. And so we need to keep doing what we're doing. Do you hear me? Keep doing what you're doing. It is working, and it matters. Call your reps, get into the streets, join us for picketing and boycott Home Depot and Target, collect diapers and food for people who need them, buy out a street vendor, get the number for rapid response on your phone and call in when ICE is spotted in your neighborhood, check in with the people in your life who might be at risk. Ask what you can do for them. Tell them they'd be safe to come to your house. Reach out to local schools and see what they need. Organize in your neighborhood or block or corner. Do not stop. Do not be quiet. Keep using your voice, your love, your time, your money, and everything else at your disposal. Maybe you're not sure what will work. That's okay. None of us are sure what will work, but we will all figure it out together. We will keep trying and trying and trying. This set of tactics, sustaining ourselves and each other for the long haul, supporting other people's physical bodies and souls in order to do the work, it is working. We saw it work with Amalek, and we are seeing it work right now. But this isn't just about tactics or about strategy. It is also about our spiritual orientation to the work. It is also about how we connect emotionally to the fight, regardless of the role we play. When Aaron and Hur helped lift up Moshe's arms, they also did something else that we haven't talked about yet. They brought him a stone to sit on. This moment shows up in the Talmud in Tractate Ta'anit. They try to understand why Moshe sits on a stone and not on a cushion or something more comfortable. Wasn't there a better option for him? We learn from Moshe exactly why a stone was the only option. He says, Ho'il v'Yisrael shruyin b'tza'ar af ani eya imahem b'tza'ar. He says, since the Jewish people are immersed in suffering, I too will be with them in suffering. Even though he is not actively on the battlefield, he will stay as immersed as he can in the struggle. No matter what role we are playing on the battlefield or off, it is imperative that we stay immersed in the suffering together. Like Harris modeled so well for us, stay proximate to the fight, stay involved, look out for your neighbors, and bring some extra hand warmers too. The Talmud goes on to say, V'chol hamitza'er atzmo im hatzibor zoche v'ro'eh b'nechamat tzibor. Anyone who is distressed together with the community will merit to see the consolation of the community. But only those people will merit it. If we do not sit together now in our grief and outrage and distress, if we do not fight and go to the streets and the halls of power now, we will never make it to the consolation, to the redemption. We must stay together every single step of the way until we get there. There is no reward unless you do the hard work first. But the Talmud doesn't stop there. It has one more warning for us. It brings in the example of someone who has stayed on the sidelines, either physically or emotionally or spiritually. This person, it says, might say, well, who will testify against me? No one knows that I have not taken part in the work. The Talmud responds, Avnei veito shel adam v'korot veito shel adam me'idim bo. The stones and the beams of that person's house will testify against them. If there is no other witness to your absence, the beams of your house will be the truth tellers. Your house, this veneer of safety and comfort, it too will speak out against you if the moment arrives. Silence is complicity, and the beams of your house will know. Or maybe the beams of your neighbor's house, a house that now sits empty, your neighbors long ago ripped from the life they once knew. The beams of the house will not stay silent. And if not your house, the Talmud says, then your own soul, your own body. Your absence will not go unnoticed. This is a collective fight. There is no way out of it. It will take all of us, every single one. And the way that we stay in this fight, no matter what role we are playing in any moment, is by remembering that what's happening to our neighbors is changing us too. When Amalek attacks the people at the back of the pack, that is you too. That is us too. We are not separate from them, from each other. We are all responsible for each other. I want to revisit the scene with Moshe and Aaron and Hur one more time. Sitting on top of that hill, flanked on both sides by helpers. The verse says, Vayihi yadav emunah ad bo hashemesh. So his hands stayed raised until the sun set. His hands remained steady. But the word it uses here is strange, emunah. We know that word mostly in very different contexts. We know that word to be faith, the same root as amen. His hands didn't lose faith until the sunset. His hands stayed faithful until the sunset. We do not know how long until the sun sets right now in this fight. We do not know how long until the Red Sea parts or we make it through on dry land, or we endure the period of distress that eventually leads to the consolation. But we have to keep our faith. We have to believe that this fight matters. We have to stay seated on a stone as a constant reminder of the battle that is raging. We have to look out for each other. When it's 20 degrees below zero, passing out hot water and hand warmers, when we help someone lift their arms up, when we look out for our neighbors and bring groceries to people afraid to leave their homes, when we blow whistles, when ICE shows up, when we protest in the streets in the hundreds and thousands, when we never let our senators' phones stop ringing. We have a lot of work to do, and this fight is far from over. Keep your faith, keep your eyes open, trust what you see with your own eyes. And when your arms start to fall, ask someone next to you to bring you a stone to sit on and someone else to lift up your arms. This is going to take every single one of us. I pray that next year, Parshat Beshalach will again just be about rejoicing in song when we finally made it across the Red Sea on dry land. Shabbat Shalom.